we're going to get going. We have a lot of material to cover, please, again, if you have questions, we encourage you to submit those in the chat box, and we will be then reading out those questions to the entire group to share the questions. We do have a lot of material, and we will be moving through this pretty quickly. One of the our goal for this webinar is to provide a very brief review of what the ELAB program is, and provide you some information about the networking and what one team in particular developed as networking contacts by participating in the ELAB program. We are not going to review where you fit in the program of commercialization, and then we'll go right into the applications, part 1 through 7, and spend the bulk of the time today on that. So for those of you, a quick review of the ELAB program. Right now we're going through the meeting, and then we proceed with screening of applications for those of you who submit applications, and then we start the education, and then that's followed by coaching and networking, and finally debriefing, so that we get feedback and suggestions which we incorporate in the following year program. So we will be meeting with tech transfer offices next week on October 5th to brief them on the program. So if you have not yet met your tech transfer officer, we encourage you to do that, because we're going to meet all the heads of them next week. The final info session is next Thursday at 6 p.m. You do need to register for that. Application deadline is November 1, after which point there's going to be a screening of the applications by a group of external experts. There will be separate experts in science, separate business development, and separate investors who screen each application. We will also be connecting with personal references that you provide us in this application in November, and then the finalists will be invited to an in-person interview. They will be told the day before Thanksgiving of what the time slot is for either Monday, November 28th, that is Monday the day after Thanksgiving, or the afternoon of November 30th, that is the Wednesday after Thanksgiving. The invited participants will start the education process on December 12th at program orientation, and then the boot camp starts in January. Education continues while coaching goes on, which runs from February until May. At the same time that you will be working with a coach weekly in a webinar with 2 other ventures, you will be starting the networking program of ELAB. That has several aspects to it, including being connected to mentors, and those connections will continue through the end of the program at the end of June. And there are also roundtables, 1 a month. I refer you to the schedule for the program that's on ELabNYC.com. Pitch Day, which is April 6th. And then a PASS program, which is a program whereby participants in the ELAB program are invited to participate in New York City networking and entrepreneurship events for free or at reduced rates through a partnership program that we have created with other organizations. We debrief all of the participants in June through a survey and an telephone questionnaire, and then we rebuild the program for the following year. So that's the rough schedule. I encourage you to go to ELabNYC.com and check the specific dates and times which are listed on the calendar. One of the things that we just will summarize about the 2016 participant outcomes. 20 teams were invited to participate, 19 completed. A little under $8 million was raised collectively by the 19 teams, and 25% of those teams received their first customer revenues during the program. So lastly, I want to take you through, before we start the application review, an example of network development. A team that came out of Rockefeller, Val and Graham, in the 2014 program, had been collaborating in his lab, the SACMAR lab, with the Karolinska Institute. They applied to ELab, and they developed connections and develop their network through other members of their cohort, that is, other ventures that were admitted to the ELab program that year. They developed connections and a network through the mentor program, also separately through attendance at the roundtables, and finally as a result of their participation in Pitch Day. To give you a sense of the organizations that they connected with, we share with you some of the logos of those organizations, both the other research institutions that the cohorts were in the mentor area, the angel networks, the foundations, and the pharmaceutical companies at the roundtables, the law firms, the international trade organizations, consultants, and market research organizations, and then additional trade associations, entrepreneur-led New York metro area startups, as well as venture and tech transfer offices. So these were all specific connections that introductions were provided to support Val and Graham's venture that he was developing. So we are now ready to get into the application review. So we'll spend the bulk of the time now going through this review. So let's start with the overview. ELab is a program that has been run now for 4 years. So we've done this application process 5 times. This is the 5th time we've done it. We substantially changed the platform in the 2nd year. The platform that we now use is called Wufoo. Wufoo is an application platform that allows you to upload files. It allows you to add links to your answers. And importantly for screeners, it downloads your application in a nice readable format. The screeners like Wufoo better than what we had before. So those are the good news about Wufoo. The challenges with Wufoo is, number one, you cannot save an application midway and return to it. So this gives rise to a couple of things we encourage you to be careful about. One of those is that if you have started an application and you file more than one, we can get confused about what is the final application you want us to review. We encourage you to write on your final application the word final, and we also encourage you to print out the whole application and complete it before, if you haven't already, before you submit one, preferably, application for us. So that's one thing to be very thoughtful about with Wufoo. Secondly, it's important for you to understand that screeners are targeting 20 minutes to review your application. So one of the things you have is the capability of Wufoo to upload files or add links, and the reality that these application screeners are not going to spend the time reading a lot more than what's in the application. So we have had challenges where people uploaded several files and some important information was in an uploaded files which a screener did not review, which was then a difficult problem for the applicant, because the answer that they felt was in place was actually never considered. So if it's important, we highly recommend that you work that into your application file on WUFU and not leave it in a uploaded file, because we just do not see the reviewers reading as carefully all of the associated files. So be aware of that. Screeners are limited to review 5 applications max, which means that you are not going to be have the same reviews as other people. Not just because your science is different from other people, but also because screeners are limited to a total of 5 applications. Lastly, this is something that we ran into in the first year, where there were team members who were on more than 1 application. This can be very confusing for us. We highly recommend you sort out who's on your team and have them not be on more than 1 application. And lastly, this is a program that is non-confidential, which means we specifically do not want to see any provisional patent applications or data that has not been published. If you have a question about whether information is confidential, we encourage you to talk to a lawyer and get a determination of that. And in the absence of having a lawyer, we encourage you to talk to your tech transfer office if you are affiliated with a research institution to discuss what is confidential. We do not want to see any confidential information in the application to the ELab program. So that's some of the basic background for the program. Now let's start with the application. What we want to do is walk through the parts, particularly focusing on areas where there's been confusion in prior applications. Now maybe you all don't have these challenges, but we're sharing and focusing on areas where there have been challenges in the past. So one of the questions is about the team leader that comes up. The team leader can change. For our purposes, we need you to identify one person who we will correspond with throughout this application process. If we have a telephone number that does not work, we need to get in touch with one person. If we have a link that's broken, we need to get in touch with someone to get that fixed. If we have a problem with some of the information not showing up in an application, we need one person to connect to. This team leader can change, but for the purpose of this application, we need one point of contact. Each member of the team, which could be multiple people, needs to be provided, and we need their contact information. So please, if you have multiple team members, add that to the application file. If you have multiple team members, we also want to see the resume for all of the team members. And we'll talk about where you can add these additional files if you have more than the 3 that the application accommodates. Specifically, there are a couple of areas which we have seen be areas of question in the past. The first one is eligibility. This is a program that is initiated by the New York City Economic Development Corporation. As a result, there is an eligibility restriction, which is that there needs to be an affiliation with the City of New York. So that affiliation can be one or multiple of the followings. You don't have to have all of these, but you have to have at least one. You can live in New York City. You can work in New York City. You can use IP from a New York City research institution. If you have questions about your status for eligibility, email that as soon as you can to us. We do need to talk about this. And if you have unusual circumstances, like your IP is from an institution outside of New York City and you're just setting up this company, we highly recommend that you attend the October 6th info session and meet New York City EDC, who will be at that info session in person, and be prepared to explain your New York City affiliation with them. And we are glad to talk with you to help think through what that affiliation is if it's a little bit more complicated. Every year we do have people who move to New York City to participate in the ELab program, but this is a serious consideration for acceptance into the program. So the sooner we start discussing that and get that straightened out, the better for you. We've already talked about needing a point of contact, what we are calling the team leader for the application submission, which could use a little N at the end of that word. The team leader is also considered the person who is going to attend all of the events. So we can handle a maximum of 3 people per team. That doesn't mean that your team might not have more than that. There are teams that have had 9 people on them. We do not physically have space for more than 3 people. You can also have 1 person attend, even if you have a 9-person team. If you want to have multiple people attend events, that is the program of activities for the ELab program, please let us know this. There is an additional information section at the end, part 7, about that. Next, we've talked about if you are submitting an application with a team member who's also applying for another team. We do not allow people to participate on more than 1 team. So pretty much we recommend that you sort this out before you do all the submissions. We have quite a number of international and foreign-born participants in ELab and have for the last 4 years. Generally speaking, talking is more important than writing. So that's something that you ought to think about if you are not comfortable speaking English. We're not saying perfect English, but if you're not comfortable speaking, you ought to think about somebody joining your team who will be speaking. But this is English as a second language is a pretty common thing with the ELab participants. University affiliation. We have grad students, postdocs, faculty. We have had several very successful undergrads participate in with primarily engineering, technology, although there's been one therapeutic. That we love to see, but it is not necessary to participate. You may have your own technology, you may have already licensed technology from somewhere else, and we welcome those applications. A LinkedIn profile is requested, get that done. You can create it, it's free. Just get on the web and create your LinkedIn profile and add it. This is what all of the screeners are going to be doing. They are all going to be opening up your LinkedIn profile, so put the time in now to get that moving along. So let's go to part 2. Now we're talking about company information. So how important is this? This may not be applicable to you. If we look back statistics on the first 4 cohorts, about half of the teams were incorporated when they applied, which means that half of them were not. So you may not have a company or any of the affiliated information. So if you don't have it, that's fine. If you do have it, please add this information so that we can have this on file and understand where you are. We do have 2 levels of work now, 2 tracks in the ELAB program. One is formative for companies who have not participated in business programs and have raised none or minimal amounts of funding for their startup venture, and another track, a developmental track for companies who may have raised over $1 million and are looking to address specific challenges in their business launch. So this is one of the things that helps us understand from the get-go what track you might participate in. We want to know about funding or awards received to date and where the money is coming from. This gives us, again, a sense of where you stand with regards to the development of your venture. We are also interested if you have research awards to understand what kind of research awards and how long you've been getting them and how much. We are also interested to know if you've got NIH funding, what specific agency, and if you've got foundation funding, what foundation funding you have received to date. Again, if you have not received this, that's also okay. People get into the program who have not received any funds. But we are interested to understand where you're coming in because, as we say, we've got 2 tracks and we're looking to understand where people are. Okay, continuing the company section. Just be aware there is no deduction, there's no scoring if you're not a company. There are a lot of people who have become companies or they have filed. We think some of them are filing to become companies and become incorporated as LLCs or S corporations as part of the application process. Most of them have not received funding, although increasingly there are some who have received up to and over $1 million apiece, which is why we have this second track of work in the ELAB program now. We talked about eligibility. We have mentioned about them moving to New York City to start a company. We're seeing more people who are moving to come to New York City to participate in ELAB, and more of them are being admitted. So those are some statistics to share. I don't know if they're really meaningful in terms of your plans, but don't be discouraged. If you are not from New York City and you're planning to move, we highly recommend you call us to explain this. If you incorporated in Oregon, we are going to talk to you about whether you are a New York City affiliated company or not. So just be ready to explain that with regards to the eligibility requirement that we've got. We want to know your company form, i.e. an LLC or an S Corp or a C Corp or a partnership or nothing. There isn't a right answer. You don't get any points off if you don't, if you answer one versus another, you don't get any more points if you do answer. We just want to know what we're dealing with when we're thinking about workshops and levels again. It is very helpful for us to understand, again, your funding and awards. We are now adding here talking about university in addition to any other governmental awards or any private foundation awards. If you have participated in any entrepreneurship training programs, we'd be interested to know when you did that and where you've done this. We are again trying to understand at what level the teams are that are applying and what your background is and commitment to starting up ventures. Okay, now we're on part 3. Okay, so part 3, we're talking about the technology innovation. Okay. These are the questions 4, 7, 8, and 9 where people have run into issues. So we're going to talk about those particular questions. Some of the rest of them are kind of straightforward. So let's talk about number 4. So one of the questions is select on for all categories of classification that apply. So first you ought to know that there is no extra points for multiple categories. People are invited to participate if they only have one category. And if you select all categories, I would say that that kind of raises an eyebrow about whether you really have something that fits all those categories or whether you're just, checking all the boxes. But there are some things that are many different categories, and we encourage you to thoughtfully answer that question. In terms of the field of use, we again, you don't get extra points if you select all of the fields of use. So think about this again. What this is used for, the categories of classification in the field of use are used to help match you to screeners who are also identifying their areas of interest and their expertise. So if you really have a biomarker for a cancer, and you are selecting everything, you might get someone who has a cardiology expertise, and you really probably won't benefit from their screening your application. So think about where these might apply, because we will use this information in order to try and match you to appropriate screeners. The question number 8, innovation status. This is a super important question. Screeners really like science, and they're often very familiar with the type of work being done in your area. So be aware of that. And also be aware that they will not be in favor of what they call a science project. If this is an idea you have that you want to prove out, they are not going to be very supportive of that. Which the ventures are supported by screeners is ones that have a prototype or proof of concept or some preliminary data. They are not ideas that, if they were pursued, might prove something that could be groundbreaking. We have and do admit ventures which are generating revenue, but that's also not a shoo-in for getting into the program. Science is really important, and people are very important. If we move on to question 9, when we look at this data, most of the people who are invited to participate have some academic connection for their technology. They may have already licensed it, but they do have some kind of connection with where this initial research took place. People may be independents, or may identify themselves as independents, but they have some kind of connection back to a research institution for their technology. There are also raw startups that are still affiliated with the university, where all the people involved in the proposed startup are still employed by the university. We see also a very high correlation of people who are invited to participate with those who are pursuing intellectual property that is patent protection. There are some that end up deciding to pursue trade secrets as part of their innovation protection strategy, as opposed to filing a patent. Sometimes they're working that decision through at ELab or during the ELab program. there is a strong bias by the screeners for intellectual property, which is patents. Again, the patents don't have to be issued. The patents can be in the process of being drafted, or a provisional can be in the process of being drafted. It is very helpful for you to have a conversation with your tech transfer office if you are affiliated with a research institution, so that when we do due diligence and call the tech transfer office, and we'll get to that, they will have a comment about their belief that there is something that they feel is worth protecting. So again, that's a very high correlation of people who ultimately get invited to participate and part of their application. When we get to part 4 now, we're talking about the short response questions. This question is tough. We're not giving a lot of words, so we know that this is a hard thing to craft in 500 words, but it is important to us. We only have 20 slots. We're looking for people who have an expectation that is coincident with what the ELab program can and has historically accomplished. So think about these questions when you are answering this question. We are very serious about the third comment, which is your commitment to attending all program dates for the program year as stated on the website for the schedule. The importance to us of your commitment and availability, we cannot overstate. We make an effort to bring together people, and often they're only able to come to one event as a guest to meet ELab participants. So we cannot be in a situation where we have invited people to come to the April roundtable dinner, for example, and have a participant not be available. So this is because it doesn't just affect you in the 2017 class, it affects 2018 class and the 2019 class as people come to meet specific teams. And so we need to have the participants be able to commit to come to all the activities. So do look at that, and this is an important part of your personal assessment of the timing and your ability to participate in the program. So continuing section D, one of the things about your availability, we know that a lot of people who are in research are going around to different conferences or may have teaching commitments. If you have some of these specific considerations, please contact us and talk to us about this. When we get into the coaching part of the program, that is done by web, and we have had people call in from all over the world to participate in coaching, but we do need people to show up at the evening roundtable events. So please get in touch if you have questions about your availability. So continuing with part 4, let's look at question 11. This again is a challenge. We are again reminding you to include only non-confidential information. These are very short answers that we're looking for. Again, think about this from the perspective of screeners who are targeting 20 minutes to review your application. There is real crafting involved to get your ideas conveyed in a very concise statement. These are challenges, but this is also part of what we're looking for as information to be able to have the screeners review your application. We want to, in this application, have you address specific questions. These might be an outline for you in terms of how you respond to the specific question of what is your innovation or business idea. These are very helpful and are typically what is in the minds of screeners as they are reviewing your application, is have you answered the following questions. So take this as a template for the question that you have to answer, and the word guideline as just that, a guideline to help you craft an answer that moves with a rhythm that people who are experienced scouting new technology, investing in new technology, or reviewing commercialization of early stage technology are used to seeing. This is not easy to do, so I encourage you to get going on this soon if you haven't already. And if you do have questions about any of these, this recommended outline for answering this section, get in touch with us, okay? Now, we're going to talk about Part 5, references. References are something that has tripped up some strong applicants. So while this may seem a trivial part of the application, we will spend some time on it because we have seen this section not be addressed with the level of care that screeners are looking for. So here's a couple of things to think about. We need 3 references. We need accurate contact information. That contact information needs to enable us to connect with them by telephone. That usually the way that connection is done is first by email to confirm a time, and then there's a phone call that the ELabNYC team makes to the references at the appointed time to have a short conversation. So you need to make sure that you get us information that will enable us to connect with them. Secondly, there are a couple of relationships, 2 references that can be problematic to us and some that are very helpful to us. So first, the helpful ones. If you are the PI, great. If you are not the PI, get your PI to be one of the references. Business advisors are great. Personal advisors who can comment on your integrity and your commitment to start a business are great. Mentors, whether they be personal or business or scientific, are great, especially if they can comment on your integrity and commitment. If you have talked to an investor and they're enthusiastic about what you're doing, those are very good references. If you've got a customer, some of you will have already spoken to customers, that is a good reference as well, especially, of course, if they're enthusiastic about what you're proposing to do. So those are relationships that are very helpful and work well. We have had challenges with a couple of references. Obviously, if people aren't available by phone or don't pick up or don't call back or don't respond to an email request to speak, then that's a big problem. If we have one of those, then we will contact you, the lead member of your team, and ask for another reference. So you really behooves you to find 3 people who are able to speak on your behalf between the times that you apply, which is November 1. We'll start calling by November 5th, and we'll wrap up by the 6th of December, all the personal references. So make sure they're available then. People go away on conferences and aren't available. People go away on vacations and aren't available. And they might also go away on vacation and conferences and be available. But just make sure that they know that they're going to get an email request for an interview and that they make themselves available. We do not have a problem calling anywhere in the world, and we every year have done that. The challenges are if you have family members who are references, that can be a challenge. Even if family members are very well established in the field, it's something that can be really problematic for us. Contacts that are very senior level, but whom you don't know very well, or whom you connected with 10 or 20 or 30 years ago, can be problematic, because if they get on the phone and say they're not really sure what you're up to these days, that's not going to reflect well on you. So be thoughtful about the references. The questions that we ask when we call asking for references are they aware that you as an applicant are applying to the ELAB program? We ask, is this individual committed to start a business? And we ask them what experience they have about your application as your persistence in pursuing what you set out to, and that's also a question that we ask. So think about who can comment about you, your integrity, your commitment to being an entrepreneur, and make sure that they know we're going to call and that you're applying to an entrepreneurship program. We also ask that we will get in touch with your tech transfer officer. So sometimes people, and this is kind of like a little detail, but if you give one of your 3 references to tech transfer office, that can be a little bit short for us, because we also typically are looking to talk to a tech transfer officer if you have not yet licensed the technology. So that's one thing for you to think about, is you may need one more than you think you may need, depending upon what your circumstances are. We've got a couple of questions here. One is it okay to have 2 references for the leader and 1 for any other team member, say the PI? Yeah, we can do it that way. What is challenging for us is if you're in a structure of a team where the PI is not participating, we can't take references for that PI as your references. We're looking for the people who are going to participate, to be committed to the program, to be determined to be champions for the technology and starting a venture. And so, if you've got a PI but they're not participating, we're going to be calling you back and asking you for some more references. We're also if you also have like co-leaders who are going to be in this program, and you want to provide us 3 references across 2 co-leaders, we can do that. If we run into not enough information, we'll get in touch with you and ask you for another reference. So I would be prepared to have, as strong references as you can get, so we can move along past that issue. We do every year, and this always surprises us, stop screening applications because the references are not enthusiastic about your intent to start a business, or they just can't comment about who these applicants are with regards to an entrepreneurship training program. So we do take that seriously, and that's something you can start working on now for the program. Let's keep going here. Now that we've kind of talked a lot about these references piece, if you have any other questions, submit them either in the chat box or send an email to us, and we can chat some more about this. Okay, so we've talked about there's one more exception. We would say that our challenges is, in addition to family, our partners. So we actually got this where there were two people who were partners to start the business, and one was designated as the leader, and then they gave the other partner as a reference. That's not going to work for us. So go find another one. Again, if we can't get hold of people, we are going to be in touch with you, and we're going to want a reference like the next day that we connect with. So do yourself a favor, do us a favor, go make sure that these people are available and they're going to answer the questions that we have shared with you. And again, just to put in writing so you can see what are the questions that are going to be asked of your references. Make sure they know that you're applying to ELabNYC. It helps if they know what technology you're working with, especially if you're in a lab or working on multiple research areas. It can be confusing if they don't know what it is that you're, which one it is that you're thinking about commercializing. So help them understand that. Now with regards to the tech transfer office in question 13, we want to know from tech transfer office whether they are willing to enter into a negotiation with you to license the technology. The ELabNYC program works with ventures at a very, very early stage. In business terms, we take a lot of risk to work with ventures who don't yet have control of the assets around which they're basing their company. So the way we mitigate that risk is to have a due diligence check on whether, if you do not have the license to that technology around which you're basing your venture, already secured to your company by a license agreement contract, then we want to know that the license office is willing to enter into a negotiation with you. That does not bind them to give you a license, but it does give us an indication of their support of your pursuit of a license with you. So again, this is very important to us, and every year we hear from tech transfer offices who will not support even entering into a license negotiation with an ELab team. So make sure you really, if you haven't already talked with your tech transfer office, if you are in a situation where you are going to need to get a license to develop technology, in other words, you don't already have that license into a company, you need to make a beeline to your tech transfer office and find out, tell them that you're interested in this and have a conversation about what's involved here and ask them if they would support this. And these are literally the questions that we're going to ask, so you get this ball rolling and ask them, whether they would support your application to ELab, whether they would support this application based on this specific technology you're looking to commercialize, and whether they'd enter into a negotiation with you to license the technology. We will further ask them this year to stop marketing this technology to anybody else so that you can work on this technology and pursue the commercialization of it while you're in the ELAB program. So this is, if we don't get positive answers to those questions, then we do stop the screening process for your application. So let's now move on to a new section. This is part 6, additional materials. Okay, so we talked about the sort of risk reward here. The great news is that WUFU, unlike some other platforms we looked at, did not allow a link or a file upload as part of the application process. This platform does allow it. Again, non-confidential information only. Things that are relevant are abstracts, published patents or publications, links to publications. I will tell you, we had an application that someone submitted a file which was a deck with a number of slides, i.e. more than 12, and had embedded in that information that a screener never saw. The screener was not convinced of the technology or how far along it was, and was skeptical about the application. This was unfortunate for everyone because that application was not ranked very highly by these external reviewers. So really think about what you include in your application to make it easy for a screener to give you a high mark. Very, very important. It's potentially something that is really difficult to do given the word constraints, but it's really important for you to be able to convey and answer the questions as best you can, being aware that the screeners may not be going through all of your attachments. They probably are not. We do ask separately for a video pitch. And there are screeners who spend more time with that than others. Just to provide a little bit more flavor on this question 14, as far as the non-confidential information, we do not want to see, and we'll say this again, provisional patent application documents. We don't want to see anything that's not yet published, even if it's under review. We do not sign NDAs. The people who screen don't sign NDAs. So protect your ideas. Do not put any confidential information in your application. With regards to the video pitch, people have asked us for some guidance on how to 3 minutes. This is one way of looking at that. Repeat what's been in parts 1, 2, and 3, and cover that in 30 seconds. So really what you're talking about is a sentence apiece. That's about what that comes to. 10 seconds apiece for 3 different parts, and then a minute for the personal statement and the technology innovation statement combined, and then a minute to wrap up. Commitment to the program is important, so make sure that comes across with it. Send this to us as a link to Dropbox. Please don't send the whole file. It's not gonna, we can't send it around. The link is what we'll be able to send, and you need to be able to have that be available for people to get access to. So if you have another place you want to put that, like a YouTube video, you can do that as well. But again, share the link, not the WAV file. Okay, G, we're coming to the end here. Application process. We are interested to know that how you found out about ELAB doesn't impact your application. but we do need to know how you did how you found out about us, so that we can in the future make sure we're connecting with people in ways that is productive for everybody. There is also a request for you to confirm you're going to be available for all the dates, and if you have special circumstances, this is a place to let us know. And we've given some examples of that here. You know, if you've got a partnership and your partner is in Israel and you're here in New York City, let us know. You know, if you're in the process of leaving university, let us know. If you've just received some private funding, let us know. You know, let us know about this. We are very used to dynamic situations with these launch ventures, but keep us posted on what's going on, okay? Critically, you know, people are only spending 20 minutes on this, so we definitely have some reviewers who really provide feedback about spelling mistakes and grammar mistakes. So, you know, those are features of many software packages. So, you know, run the checks on spelling and grammar before you submit. Make sure the links work. If your writing you're not comfortable with English, get somebody else to review it before you hit submit. Your reviewers will appreciate it, and you know, you'll frankly things will move a lot more smoothly. So you know, in general, think about this from how are you going to make it easy for the screeners to get what you're doing and to be able to support your application. The deadline is November 1. That's coming up in 4 weeks now. So please ask questions. We're here to help you. The ELabNYC team is not part of this external reviewers. We're here to help you write as strong an application as you can. We're here to answer questions and help you decide if this is the right time. And we're here to, you know, make this as productive as possible. You know, people who apply are extremely busy. We're very used to that, and we can work with you on that, but we need to understand what we're dealing with. That's to your benefit as well as to the programs, and the program right now has been able to be as strong and involve as many people as we do because of the high level of integrity and participation and commitment and hard work that the people before you have made. So we thank you for your time, and this workshop is wrapping up now. If you have any questions, you're welcome to submit them by email. There will be one more information session that's public on October 6th. You do need to RSVP for it at 6 p.m. in the evening in Midtown, and you'll get information about that when you register about the location for that event. That is an event that has a limited room size, so if you're thinking about going, I'd recommend you sign up sooner rather than later. So that's, we appreciate your time. We know that many of you had to sign up a second time and put another hour aside to join this and hear this information. We are grateful that you gave us another shot to go through all this information with you. We will and have recorded this, so that will be available. And we'll be sharing it with people who signed up for this workshop, as well as with several tech transfer offices and programs that have asked us for that. So with that, if there's any final questions, please submit them in the chat box and I can answer them now, or again, submit them afterward to mary.howard@elabnyc.com. Okay, well, thank you very, very much. There's one more question coming in, and then we'll. Well, we haven't seen. Okay. So there's a question about. There's a question about, is it a good idea to attach a pitch deck of slides to the relevant materials? So I will tell you that that is one of the places that someone got really stuck last year, where they included some critical information in a pitch deck and the screeners didn't go through it. So like I said, you know, the wonderful thing about WUFU is that you can attach decks, but the problem is in 20 minutes somebody may not look at it. So I would just really encourage you to make sure that if there's critical information that answers questions that are asked in the application, you pull it out of the pitch deck. If you want to attach the pitch deck, you're welcome to, but I would not rely on people going through the pitch deck. It's a good question, but that's one here. Okay, there's one other question that's been asked. If you've got a patent of a provisional has been filed but there's no published article on it, will that be negative? No, it's not negative. But I think, you know, obviously people who are going to be reviewing this, you know, when they see some, you know, external validation of an